Welcome to the Prepped and Polished podcast, the podcast that empowers you to take control of your education, featuring weekly interviews with influencers in the world of education, as well as tutoring tips, lessons, and updates. And now, here's your host, Alexis Avila.
Hey guys, it's Alexis Avila, your host of the Prepped and Polished podcast. Welcome. Today we have a really exciting guest. Her name's Annie Fox. We're going to get to her in a second. Now make sure you join our community of Prepped and Polished. You can find us on all the social media channels like the Facebooks, Twitters. We have a YouTube page, over about 200 videos on there. Just type Prepped and Polished and you'll get there. And if you have any questions, reactions after the podcast, email us, radio@preppedandpolished.com. Let's get to today's guest. Her name's Annie Fox. She's had over 30 years of educational experience as an educator. She's basically been on the receiving end of email questions from tweens, teens, and parents since 1997. She's written several books, including The Teen Survival Guide to Dating and Relating, Too Stressed to Think, and the Middle School Confidential series. One of her latest books, Teaching Kids to Be Good People, is a guide for navigating the 21st century parenting challenges, and I will be picking up a copy of that today. Annie is also host of the very successful Family Confidential podcast, which focuses on 21st century parenting challenges and solutions and brings you practical parenting advice through in-depth conversations with authors, educators, and therapists. All right, Annie, thanks for coming on the Prepped and Polished podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alexis. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So can you share with us a bit about your background, perhaps focus on a few pivotal moments that brings you with us today as an author, an educator, voice for parents and children?
Wow, big question. I've been around a long time. I have an undergraduate degree from Cornell University in human development and family studies, and then I went on and got a master's degree in education. Classroom was a little bit too confining for me, not to mention the bureaucracy of being part of a school district. But I've always loved working with kids, especially in the area of social and emotional development, how kids get along, how they think about their feelings, how they express themselves, creativity, imagination, all of that kind of stuff. And I was fortunate enough when I was an undergraduate at Cornell to get an internship at a public library to work with kids and actually create a theater program for them over the summer. And I thought, okay, this is really cool. And then when I was 20, I wrote and illustrated a children's book that got published by a New York publisher.
Wait, you're only 20 at this point?
At the time, I was 20. And the law said that you had to be 21 to be considered an adult. So I actually had to take this publishing contract home to my mom so that she would sign it to make it legal. Wow. Anyway, that book was kind of a gateway for me to say, okay, I want to create content for kids. And the rest is kind of history. I've gotten on the ground floor with creating CD-ROMs for kids starting in 1990. And then the internet came along in the late 90s for me, and I created a teen website called theinsight.org, where I kind of became like a Dear Abby online for teens. And in between had a couple of kids and like that. So
that's amazing. Wow. Now, tell us about your wildly successful podcast, Family Confidential. What motivated you to start your own podcast, and where has it taken you?
Well, the podcast, as you know, is so much fun to do, right? I mean, it's really great to talk. It's really great to talk to people. And what I realized as my kids grew up was that there were an awful lot of parenting experts out there who were writing awesome books, but in the trenches, parents had no time to read these books. So I thought, okay, my hands-on parenting days are over, and I love to read. So how about if I read these books, bring the authors on, interview them, and in a nugget, give the takeaway message to the parents who may only have a little bit of time to listen to a podcast rather than read an entire book. So that was really the kernel of the idea for Family Confidential, and it's been terrific. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And how long have you been doing the podcast?
We started doing it in 2009.
Oh, wow.
We did it for a couple of years. We, meaning my husband, David Fox, and I are co-producers on it under our Electric Eggplant media company. And then we kind of, after 2 years of doing audio only, we took a break, started developing apps in that 2-year period. We did 3 apps for kids, and we also published 4 books. We were busy. And then in January of 2014, I got the idea to bring it back again, but this time as a video podcast. So we just posted our 60th video podcast in the series.
That's awesome, and I want to congratulate you because you're going to be my first video podcast.
Oh, good.
So what better guest than to have you?
Well, thank you.
So on your podcast, you interview amazing people. You interview authors, educators, therapists. What are some of the things you've learned based on some of your conversations with these experts, and what are some surprises maybe you've learned didn't know before?
I'll go to the surprises first.
Okay.
Because I'm not a therapist or a PhD psychologist. It often surprises me when I hear these people with lots of letters after their name that they have pieced together theories about parenting and child development that I've come to myself independently. So I go, I guess all this stuff I've been spouting for all these years is actually true. So that's a pleasant surprise. What was the first part of your question?
Well, what are some of the highlights or things you've learned?
Yeah. Well, what I've learned is there are so many different aspects to what we call human development. And a lot of the people that I bring on have niche areas of expertise that I had no awareness of. For example, I interviewed a woman who her whole life's work is helping parents who have adopted kids from what she calls hard places, like from institutionalized settings, from orphanages in third world countries. These kids may be only a year or 2 or 3 years old, but they come with so much emotional baggage. So when they're placed in a home with very loving, well-intentioned parents here in the West, the parents don't understand how to deal with some of the things that are fundamental to the kid and pieces that child has missed because they grew up in an institution. And it was like, whoa, the woman is like an angel, and to help parents welcome those children into homes was an eye-opener for me. I've talked with parents of autistic kids who've written books and have done lots of research in that area, not something that I had any experience with. And so I think my big takeaway talking to these experts is that parenting is a very wide and deep area, and a lot of people's needs fall through the cracks because their problems are not mainstream, and yet they need help. And so I feel the podcast serves as a great resource for them.
That's awesome. And obviously when you do a podcast, your first episode is different than the last episodes, and I mean, in many ways, but
you learn.
You learn. Is that what you've learned?
I've learned to look at the camera and to make sure that my guests don't have dangling earrings on. Ching, ching, ching. What is that noise? David will say to me, what is that noise? We're going to have to edit that out throughout the entire podcast. Some of the other things I've learned, the first 2 years of which we did about 45 minutes per show. And it was, as I said, audio only. What we learned, and maybe because of the hiatus, we came back, I discovered that people don't have the time or the bandwidth to listen to 45 minutes very, very well. So we went to visual, we went to video, and 15 minutes. So I learned that sometimes shorter is better. You might want to take a note.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want people cutting out in the middle. It's like, okay, 15 minutes now, maybe the most people can commit to a podcast, as entertaining as it might be.
That's amazing. And I'm sure it's really forced you to up your game in terms of just getting right to the meat of the matter.
Oh, yeah. I say hi, and let's get right to it.
Let's get right to it. Okay, so sometimes we learn a lot about how to be an effective parent. There's lots of books about that. What but we also observe how to be an effective parent by looking at what people do wrong. So I was just curious, what does bad parenting look like?
Yeah, well, I always say there's no one right way to be an effective parent, but there are plenty of wrong ways.
There you go.
You can quote me on that. Well, when you look around and you're in the supermarket, say, and you see someone at the checkout line with their kid, there's great opportunities to observe, I don't want to say bad, but let's say ineffectual parenting. I think most parents absolutely love their kids, and they believe in the moment that they're doing the best for their child, and certainly the best that they can under the circumstances. So parents who encourage or reinforce negative behavior in their kid, for example, the kid is whining, jumping up and down, doing all kinds of stuff you don't want, and you reward them by saying, here's a candy bar. Just like obvious stuff.
Yeah.
But more nuanced, I think parents who are either overly involved in their children's lives, and this is specifically with tweens and teens, where the kid feels suffocated by the parents. Sometimes we used to call those parents helicopter parents. I've heard them being referred to as Velcro parents who can't let go.
Ooh, that's a
More
good one.
recently, I got a better one, snowplow parents. Snowplow parents are the ones who want to rush ahead in the child's path and make sure all the obstacles in life are pushed aside, so the child only trods on very soft and there are no conflicts, no
Right.
frustrations. It's not a realistic way to parent a child. It's wrapping the entire world in some kind of soft cotton, and kids like that rarely develop the grit, the determination, the persistence that they need. So you're not serving your child by acting as a snowplow. The other extreme is parents who are checked out, really.
Checked out parents.
Checked out parents. And in today's world, the escape for a lot of parents is a digital device. Just like
Ooh, yeah.
Parents complain that their teenagers don't make eye contact anymore because they've always got their head down into a screen.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of parents who are also in a screen rather than being with their kid. And then the message to the kid in that case is that what I'm doing is more important than you. And sometimes it's true. What is more important may be to deal with something in the immediate environment. But when you give that message all the time to your kid, that this screen, this texting, my checking my email, Facebook updates here, I think it's really funny, Alexis, that a lot of parents might spend a lot of time uploading all these wonderful family photos on Facebook about all these great times we've had as a family. But there's the kid right there saying, Mom, Dad, can I talk to you? No, honey, I'm busy. And so the projection on Facebook is what a wonderful family we have. But right there, off screen, is a kid who might need some attention. So negligence or overindulgence, not a great way.
Wow.
So find the middle road. Do you have kids, Alexis?
One on the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're having a girl. So
wonderful. When is she
so
due?
I've been reading this really good book called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters.
I know this.
So I really I'm getting a lot, and it's talking a lot about your points about, developing some grit and making sure you don't, neglect her, be with her, go to those soccer games.
But also if she falls down, don't race onto the field and make them stop the game. She's gonna be okay. Yeah. My son has a new baby, 13 months old now, our first grandson,
Nice.
and it's really nice to watch him become a dad, and it'll be interesting for you as well.
Awesome, can't wait. So a lot of our listeners are teens, moms of teens. So I just want to see if I can get some tips from you on things that you learned, best ways to parent a teenager. Anything that come to your mind?
The wisest thing someone once said to me about that phase of parenting is that you should talk less and listen more.
Okay.
I mean, the truth is, by the time your kid gets to be 12, he or she has pretty much heard everything you have to say.
Yeah.
And if you keep harping on it, they're going to tune out because, hey, it's boring. I got it. So instead, what you want to do is spend more time listening, and those interactions become very rich opportunities for you to learn about this young adult that is being formed right in front of your eyes. What does he or she think about different things that are happening? Solicit their opinion on things rather than grilling them.
Nice.
Between and teen years is awesome because your kid can think in such complex ways and have really cool conversations with them. And if you let go a little bit, step back each year so that they can step up and be responsible for things. The other part of it is for you to recognize that sometimes your image of them as a child no longer fits. And when you treat a 14-year-old as if she was 7, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And you deserve to get pushback. So stay current with this emerging young adult, and I think you will be pleasantly surprised.
You know, I was having a conversation with a mom, and she said that she sees moms on her block who have 20-year-old children, and they still talk to them like they're babies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, whoa, really?
But, yeah, well, if you think back, I obviously don't know what kind of relationship you have with your parents, if they're still around, and you're lucky about that. The idea of being, say, an undergraduate in college and anticipating going back home for a holiday or for a vacation, how do you feel about that? And that's often an indicator of how your parents treat you. If it's like, oh, I got to go home, which means my parents are going to glom onto me the same expectations they had of me when I was in high school, and I've been on my own now for a while, and I resent it. And so if it doesn't feel like you want to go home, there might be a conversation you should have with your parent about, hey, here's what I'm going to be responsible for when I'm home, and this is what I expect from you in terms of my freedom to come and go, et cetera, like that.
That's amazing.
It seems like common sense, doesn't it, Alexis?
It does, but it just draws it out, and now it makes sense why. You should think about these things before Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, summer is an extended one. That you as a parent of a young adult should think about it, and you as a young adult take some responsibility instead of like getting all resentful and fighting about it and pushing back. Just saying, hey, we need to talk. This is who I am now, and I haven't been here in a couple of months, and I can respect your rules, but I need for you to respect some boundaries.
Nice. And so cyberbullying is today. Bullying. Actually, there's 282,000 students who are bullied each month in the U.S. A lot of them, 50%, are bullied online. When you have teenagers who struggle with bullying, distressed moms, for example, dads dealing with their child getting bullying, what kinds of advice would you have on how to deal with that?
You have to know about it to be able to address it.
Okay.
And tweens and teens are very, very good at hiding it. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons for that. One may be if I tell my parents about this harassment that's coming at me from my online life, they're going to take away access. They're going to take away my phone. They're going to take away my computer. And they're going to isolate me. And so on some level, the way the kids feel about it is that they would rather deal with the crap than not have access at all to their social life. And so they stay silent. Another reason they may be remaining silent is because they may be participating in some of the not nice stuff themselves in retaliation to what's coming out at them. And there is a history of that their parents may see. Another reason may be that they don't want to burden their parents with what's going on because they feel mom and dad have enough stress in their lives. And, gee, I'm 13 and I should be able to handle this myself. I don't want to come crying to mom or dad about this. If they get involved, they will make things worse. they will make me more of a pariah than I already am because I ratted on somebody. It's so complex, Alexis, that sometimes the easiest course of action in the mind of a 13-year-old is, let me just deal with this on my own. And what we find is that when kids internalize the pain that they're dealing and feel really hopeless and helpless for getting any support, bad things happen. Either the thing escalates and lots of kids get dragged down, or the kid internalizes it and can become suicidal. So I say to parents, please have conversations with your kid. If you notice, for example, that when they put the phone down, if they ever do, if they come away from a session of being on Facebook, that their behavior is showing signs of distress, they're testy with you, they're evasive, if they seem like they don't want to spend time doing things that they used to enjoy doing, if they're making issues out of things that were never an issue before at home, it could be that they're just very upset about this drama that they're involved in, and you should be proactive as a parent and make it really safe for them to talk about what's going on. Tell them what you've observed rather than saying, "Are you being bullied?"
Right.
You'd never ask a teen a question that can be answered with yes or no, because that will end the conversation immediately. Wow. So instead of saying, "Are you being bullied?" you might say something like this: "I notice when you come to dinner out, and I know you've been on Facebook, when you come, to dinner afterwards, you're in a really bad mood. What's up with that? I've noticed. What's up with that?"
Yeah. It actually reminds me of when I was in a class in master's in psychology. You don't want to ask people questions that begin with why, because it puts the recipient on the defensive.
Yeah.
As if you're accusing them. So
that's a good point. The other point of that is that a lot of kids don't know why. It's too big a question. They have no. You would ask a 2-year-old, why did you do that?
I don't know why.
I don't know why. And they're not being invasive. They don't know why any more than a 14-year-old knows why when someone sends them a god-awful nasty text message, why they send something 10 times worse in reply. They don't know why. They've been pushed against a wall and they're in fight or flight mode. That's why. It's not their thinking brain. It's their survival brain.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about your books. You have the teen survival guide to dating and relating, Too Stressed to Think. You have the middle school confidential series. Yeah. You have Teaching Kids to Be Good People, and the girls Q&A book on friendship, 50 Ways to Fix a Friendship Without Drama. Did you always know you were going to be this writer? And what motivated you to write these books?
Well, I've been on the receiving end of email from kids around the world for 18 years now. And so what motivates me to answer all these emails is the same thing that motivates me to write these books. I want to help them. They knock on my door and they say, "Annie, this is what's going on with me. I don't know what to do. Help, literally, help." And so I answer the emails one by one. And then, then you say, well, maybe I could reach more people with these same kinds of questions and issues if I wrote a book. And so that's kind of why I write.
Wow. And have you always enjoyed writing?
I love writing. I'm a writer.
You're a writer.
It's like, I say, enjoy it. Is there a choice?
Well, not writing.
there are people who do stuff. There are people who dance. There are people who sing. People who do all kinds of things. I am a writer. And there's no choice. I write. It's what I do. And yes, you get in the zone. In fact, right before our call, I was working on my novel. I'm working on a teen novel now. We can talk about it later. But I'm in the zone. And when you're in the zone writing, it's like, do you enjoy it? I can't even think about whether I enjoy it or not. I'm just like there.
It's just what you do.
It's just what you do, It's just what you do. Yeah.
Wow. And so there's more books on the horizon.
There's always more books, Alexis.
There's always more books.
Yeah, I think this will be number 12. Yeah, this will be number
Wow.
12. But I've never written a teen novel before. My Middle School Confidential series, which is books and apps, which we developed, is part graphic novel. So,
Wow.
that fictional storytelling, and I have three children's picture books. I'm a storyteller, but my storytelling also always has this kind of undercurrent of what's the takeaway for kids. It's got to be
Oh
a
yeah.
great story and engaging and fun, but it also needs to be about something that matters.
And what is this teen novel?
Mm.
What kind of takeaway should we expect from this? Unless you don't want to give it away.
Well, I can just say it's about a teen suicide from cyberbullying, as a matter of fact. And it's about what happens afterwards. It's not about what leads up to it. It's about what happens afterwards. And the dead girl is one of the characters. She's not done yet, and she is no angel.
Oh my God.
Intriguing?
I don't even think Lifetime could, it's much better than a Lifetime movie.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working on now.
What do you enjoy most about your work?
That it helps people. I know that it helps people. Every time that I answer an email, I know I'm helping somebody. Even if my advice may be not exactly, the golden key, I know that by responding to the kid who sent me the email or the parent, I have helped in some way because they knocked on my door and I said, I hear you. So that's very gratifying.
That's really.
I've probably answered 50,000 emails in the last 18 years that come to me with a knock on the door, and occasionally, not often. I usually only get one shot. It's my reply, and I never hear from the person again. But occasionally, I will hear from a kid or a parent that just says, "Thank you so much for listening." Yeah, it's nice. It's good. It's good work.
Yeah. And how do we connect with you, work with you, order your books?
I think the easiest way is just to go to anniefox.com. That's it. Everything's there. The books, the podcast, my blog. It's all there.
Do you speak at all?
I do. Can't you tell? I'm very good at talking.
You have a career in speaking, I see that.
Yes, I do. I do have a speaking career. I do keynotes. I do parent education stuff. I actually go to schools and do student assemblies because I love talking to kids.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bridge from teenage years to young adulthood is a scary transition, a daunting one. So to any teen who may be listening to you today, any piece of advice?
Well, first of all, I think that it may be less scary than you portray. So I don't like the word scary. In terms of a challenge, I think that it's more challenging to transition from childhood into middle school than it is from high school into college. That's my personal feeling, because if your parents are doing a good job with you towards the end of high school, you should be becoming more and more independent. And so when you go off to college or the next chapter in your life and you're maybe not even living under their roof anymore, you're already able to manage a lot of your life on your own. So no, not scary. Very exciting. Very exciting. It's like when you get your driver's license, hey, I can go where I want, make my own choices. This is great as long as you have a foundation of self-respect and social responsibility. So that the choices I make me feel good about myself. And in order to do that, I treat other people well. I mean, it's kind of like that. So I would say to anybody who's just graduated from high school or graduating soon from college and moving on to your formal adult after student days life, is that remember that your choices matter. I mean, this is always true, but online and off, your choices matter. And I know there are times when we all get very emotional, we get stressed out, and when that happens, we're not always using our thinking brain, which we need to make good choices. So my best advice is when you feel yourself about to lose it, put on the brakes, take some slow, deep breaths. Seriously, this works. It works because physiologically, it will lower your heart rate. Just like right there in the moment, it will lower your heart rate. When your heart rate is lowered, your brain clicks out of survival mode into more thoughtful mode. Because if it were truly the house was on fire or you were swimming around and you saw a shark, your heart rate would not slow down. So your brain realizes that when your heart rate slowed down, there really is no danger here. This is important. So you've got to kind of remind your brain that this text message that you got is really not the same as a shark in the water. Because we misidentify stuff all the time. Thankfully, 99.99% of the time, there is no shark.
Right.
So we don't want to react as if there's a shark, because that's going to make things worse. So when you notice that your brain is going, ah, that's the time to put on the brakes, take some slow, deep breaths.
Love it.
And then simply ask yourself, what am I going for right now? What am I after? What's my goal?
Yeah.
And then make sure that your next move is going to make things easier for you and the people around you, easier to communicate with them the next time you see them. And you will end up living a pretty good life.
It's amazing. And the universe, I think what you're saying is the universe treats you well when you are calm too.
Well, I don't know about that, about the universe treating you well. I think the universe throws stuff at us all the time.
Yeah.
However, as people way wiser than me have said, that it's not what gets thrown at you, it's how you respond to it.
How you respond.
And so there's some people who catastrophize everything. I couldn't find a parking place, and that's why I'm 3 minutes late for our date. I mean, it's like, versus, okay, no parking on this block.
Right.
You know,
just breathe.
Yeah, just chill.
Chill out.
Chill. You know, if there's really a shark, you're going to know what to do. You're going to run,
that is true.
Swim, or punch the shark, or as one third grader said, no, Annie, you kick them. You kick them in the eye. That's how you get rid of a shark. I said, I'll remember that. You'll know what to do. But for the other stuff, you really need your brain. You're not on automatic. So calm down and use your brain.
Wow, this is amazing. This is really, this is helping me. I'm just a podcast host here. Now, before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to say, or anything you have going on that you'd like to share with the Prepped and Polished audience?
Tell me who your audience is.
Teens.
I should have asked this in the beginning.
Tweens, teens, moms going to work.
Okay.
You know.
Well, I've got two different messages for both. For parents, enjoy your kids. Okay, if you need to take some slow, deep breaths to remind you, these are your children. And, without getting maudlin, this phase of their lives when they're living under your roof and you're parenting at close hand doesn't last very long. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And for tweens and teens who are listening, you should also enjoy your life. And you know that your parents they love you more than anybody. I mean, really, they really do. And even when they say stuff that annoys the hell out of you, they're coming from a place of love. So just remember that. When they say, get off the computer, they're not trying to mess up your life. What they're really saying is, I love you and I miss spending time with you. So if you can decode, get off the computer already, to I love you and I miss spending time with you, then you won't be so angry at them.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, Andy, thanks for coming on the Prepped and Polished podcast, and
thank you. It's
appreciate
fun.
your time.
Anytime you want to have me back, I'll be happy to talk to you.
And this wraps up our show today with author, educator, and podcast host of Family Confidential podcast, Annie Fox. To learn more about Annie's amazing work, check out her website. It's www.anniefox.com. Let me spell it for you. It's ANNIEFOX.com. And to check out her podcast, go to www.familyconfidential.com. And make sure for another related conversation, go back to episode 23. It was my interview with parenting expert Sue Atkins. And it was how to raise happy, confident, well-behaved children. And then also, make sure to go to episode 84 with my fascinating conversation with Julie Lithcott-Hames on how to raise a young adult. These are must-listens. And make sure to access all of our podcasts, the podcasts I just mentioned, all of the podcasts, go to preppedandpolished.com/podcast. And make sure you're on the lookout for our next podcast episode. It will be number 91. We're getting closer to the century mark. So 91 will be our next tutoring episode. So thank you for joining us on the Prepped and Polished podcast. Now go out there and take control of your education.
You've been listening to the Prepped and Polished podcast. For more information, check out preppedandpolished.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening. Class dismissed.